Steam, YouTube, let's talk the all-new 40k June 2024 Balance Dataslate, plus core rules updates right here in this State of Play review, right here, right now. To my right, we have the chef.
You were good. The flow was good there. I was expecting some beats to drop.
Listen,
Simon Says walks in. Da-na-na-na.
if I was allowed to do a rap, you know, I would do it, but I'm not gonna trap you in.
Which is a form of music. Trap.
Yeah, I know.
It was all going so well.
To my left, we have the bards. So,
He's actually musically inclined.
A little bit.
so look, we do have huge changes for the game,
God,
sweeping
there's so
changes.
many.
Now, because the changes are so substantial and also very exciting overall, which I think is going to breathe a whole new life into 40k 10th right now, which is really great. Fun for us as making videos for you guys, and fun for you guys playing at home. We can't cover possibly everything, so the video would be 1 million hours long. So instead what we're going to do is we're going to go over the Balance Dataslate core rules and the faction updates. Then we'll go over those core rule updates. We're not going to go over the designer's commentary or the FAQs. You guys can dive into that after this, but these are the most impactful highlights. So let's kick this off. Headlines indeed. First up, we have modifying stratagem CP costs.
So previously, I mean, look. I like the rule in the first place. Here's this limited resource, except not. But then they changed it to battle tactics only could be benefited from it, and vice versa. Now, it's not like a reversal, it's a change. So it doesn't, if you've got an ability that does that, it doesn't reduce it to 0. It reduces it by 1.
Right.
Now, it doesn't say that there's to a minimum of 0 here, so I'm just going to assume that that's the intention.
Yeah.
However, everyone that has that ability, it's now reduce it by 1. So you don't get 2 CP for 0, but you do get 1 CP for 0. In addition, if you have an ability that would be once per game increase a stratagem by 0.
Yeah.
Or by 1.
By 0? Yes.
Yeah.
You cost precisely nothing more.
You now have Cypher's rule, which is Lord of Deceit. So instead of doing it once per game anywhere on the board, you can go, did you do a stratagem within 12 inches of me? Oh, that's increased by 1. Any stratagem multiple times per turn.
Oh,
so it's an aura ability.
A 12-inch aura ability. So a Calendar.
Oh,
yeah.
It's getting spicy in this house.
Now, because and it affects everything. Everything. So a Hazardous assassin.
Yep.
An Archon.
Yep.
This is where it kind of falls apart a little bit, because sure, you know, a Hazardous assassin, yeah, they've got lone operative. They'll set it up maybe for a turn, and then they're probably going to die, right? But for that turn, it could be crucial. An Archon with some Incubi, once they jump out, they're going to like go into an area of the battlefield and kind of shut it down a little bit. Yeah, the Swarmlord in 6 Hive Guard becomes a bit of a problem.
yeah.
Oh no.
Yeah, I'm not sure they thought about him.
They forgot he did that.
Yeah, they forgot he did that because no one's ever used him.
And he wants to be up close in your lines.
You've got him and 6
causing
Tyrant
problems.
Guards just in the middle of your opponent's battle lines, just going,
yeah.
are you near me? Oh, Armor of Contempt. Oh, that costs 2 CP.
very
Come on,
chewy.
reroll, that costs 2 CP. Certain stratagems, cost 3 CP.
Yeah. Ooh, yeah.
It's a huge change. I still don't like anything that modifies CP costs because it's supposed to be a limited resource, but this will help out a lot of especially the new faction codexes, which were clearly written before that was put in. Yeah. Farsight can now use most of the stratagems in a retaliation.
It's really nice. Right. For stuff like that and like Custodes, especially like Auric Champions, where they're all characters, yet none of the strats in the character's attachment were battle tactics.
Right.
Yeah. It fixes that. It also fixes the other way of like, say, Imperial Fists, the re-rolling wounds, that's 2 CP, and the battle tactic.
Yeah.
It'll be 1 CP now, not just I'm going to do it for free.
This is
and
a
then
much more elegant fix.
It's nice.
It also,
Because,
even the increase one, it forces you, the Swarmlord notwithstanding, it forces you to put often quite flimsy stuff in a danger area. It's not just you can be like, well, I'll just hide in my corner waiting for an opportune moment to go up and down and then cleanse, whilst also going, are you going to use a stratagem?
About the Hazardous
assassin. So now they have to get in the thick of it. But when they do, they can be really impactful.
Yeah.
Like, even a turn of just go, oh, how many CP do you have? I've got 2 CP. Boop.
Yep.
Well, which of your 2 stratagems did you want to use? Because you can only use one of them now.
Yeah, it's feels
really
new.
It's a big change, actually,
It is a big
because obviously a lot of armies are built around these sorts of tactics.
I'm going to throw it out there as well. That is change 1. It's already swung for the fences.
Yeah, it has.
It will continue.
Let's move on to change 2. Stratagems that can be used more than once per phase/turn.
It doesn't exist anymore.
Okay.
Basically. So it has to explicitly call it out.
Yeah.
So the example that they use is Fire Overwatch. So let's say, I think there's something in the Chaos Space Marine Codex, the Traitor Enforcer, allows you to use Fire Overwatch again for 0 CP. Or reduce it by 1 now.
Yeah.
So you have to apply both elements.
Exactly, yeah.
That is the only time you're allowed to do it. So if you've got a Space Marine Captain, you can't go, right, Armor of Contempt and Armor of Contempt. It's like,
Yeah.
So therein already lies the balancing factor of reducing stratagems to free or cheaper is you can't double dip anymore.
Yeah.
Which is good.
You can't do
It's
the
good.
same thing
Yeah.
twice
Yeah.
unless it specifically says.
They're supposed to be
is
special moves.
Yeah.
If you can spam them, they're less special. Right, stratagems that prevent units from being targeted.
So it's the Dark Obscuration type stratagems, they're all 18 inches now.
Yeah.
Haloed in Soulfire, 18 inches.
Okay.
Dark Obscuration is already 18 inches.
Yeah.
It's future-proof. I don't think there's many more.
They even
think-
give Haloed in Soulfire as an example.
I think it's the only big one left.
I think it's even
They removed the one from Genestealer cults.
Yeah, a lot of them have come out now and been like the new version of it in the books will be like, oh, it's 18 inches now, and that seems to be where they're going with it. They've just sort of retconned the ones that are still hanging around with the 12 inches. Just tidying things
It's
up.
consistent, it's fine, you know, sad Grey Knight face, but I mean, that was such a powerful thing anyway, it's fine. Right.
But the good thing is your Grandmaster can now do it for 1 CP less.
Correct. So you know, I'd definitely take
silver.
that.
You could say grey linings.
Yes.
Silver linings.
Oh, that's even better. Why did I say grey? What an idiot.
It was so close.
I was so close to grey. I was this close. What a plum.
True
So
silver
close to
linings. I'm going to take
greyness.
that. I'm going to
What
take
an
that. That's so
absolute
good.
idiot over here.
Right, stratagems that add new units to your army.
It was a good change.
You can only use it once per game.
Once per game?
Once per game.
Okay.
There's not many of those, but it's things like your guard reinforcements, the crew call to the hunt. I think it is. Unending waves for Tyranids.
Yep.
You can't just keep doing it.
Can't just constantly keep bringing back Rough Riders.
Yeah.
Not allowed 3 points upon 3 points?
It was especially egregious with the Kroot because the Kroot one was a battle tactic, and you could do it for free. So it's just like
Endless crew.
yeah, you could do it twice per turn if you had 2 CP, basically, because you could do it for free. You could do it for 2 CP and do it on someone else for free. It was silly. Now, one thing to note is those are the only core rules changes in there.
Yeah. Yeah. Which are mainly around stratagems.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, you may be wondering, where's all the previous ones about devastating wounds and changes to Overwatch? They're now in the core rules.
Yeah.
They are enshrined. They are. If you are playing a normal game of 40k and not using the Balance Dataslate for whatever reason, you are still going to be using those rules.
Yes.
There has been a slight change to devastating wounds, which we'll get to in the core rules.
Yeah.
But, so generally, don't freak out. Don't panic.
Yeah, no, they are there.
They
We're
are
going to
still
cover them in
there.
the second half of this video.
I think as well they've almost tried to condense the core rules in this bit to stuff that's more faction specific. So
Yes.
it's like the keywords you might find in the factions in the data. Like it mentions it mentions specific stratagems for Astra Militarum and like the crew. So it's like these are the things that affect the codexes and indexes.
Yeah.
The core rules element is then handled in a separate document, which is cleaner.
It is cleaner, yeah.
Especially because this is quite a big data.
I mean, ideally now you just want an actual reprint of those core rules, right?
We'll get to that.
Because the core rules document now is, let's say, not small. Anyway, let's move on now to the faction rules.
Hey!
Okay, this is where a lot of you guys and gals will be very interested. What's happened to your army? So, if you're Sororitas, nothing here actually.
You just got a new codex.
Way!
You're eating good.
Yeah,
Tell you what though.
the Golden Boys, the Adeptus Custodes.
They needed this. I think was nobody was there being like they don't need anything. So there's been changes to both the martial mastery detachment and assemblage of might, so your Auric champions and your shield host detachments. So the core rules have changed slightly in those detachments, both for the better. I think we all sort of agree. So the way martial mastery for the shield host now works, instead of it being a once per battle thing, at the start of a battle round, you can select one of the bullet points below, being your critical hits on 5s or your extra AP. Note it's one of the bullet points below, so you don't get the once per battle Super Saiyan double dipping, but you can choose it every battle round, which is nice.
You're in training mode. You're in the anabaric chamber.
Exactly right. So it says if you do so until the start of the next battle round, you apply that bullet points effects. So that's very nice of per battle round. You can be like, if I'm dealing with lots of horde, do I want loads of critical hits going off of 5, so my stances will benefit from that? Or do I want extra AP for the whole battle round?
It's a cool tactical choice to make every turn.
It's nice and
battle round,
it was already quite.
Yeah, if you're coming up against armies that have lots of inbund saves, you don't need to be like, oh well, half my rules wasted. You can be like, well, I'll always just take the crits on 5s. It's a nice change. It's a really good change. The second one is also quite.
The second one's very nice. Yeah, both of these are sort of they're very similar to what we had before, but tweaking them ever so slightly so they feel a bit more potent is your detachments rule, right? Yeah. So the assemblage of might. At the start of your command phase, you select one unit from your opponent's army, and then to the start of your next command phase, each time a model in an Adeptus Custodes character unit from your army makes an attack, you add 1 to the wound roll. Nice. Now, before it was character model. Yeah. So if you had a Terminator captain in a unit terminates, only the captain benefit plus 1.
Now his unit will benefit.
Which
is kind of what we said it should be.
Yeah, no, it was that thing of this is easier to wrap your head around because it's just that unit has plus 1 to wound.
You don't have to split the attacks anymore.
You can actually fast roll.
It all plays a bit faster, it's neater, and also it feels like that. As much as I liked the idea of all the characters running around being really powerful, is also that thing of they're all custodes. Yeah. So they're all basic.
They're all basically characters.
So now you guys will be, if you're Custodes fans, a big unit of Terminators is all getting that plus 1 to wound. The best thing about this is now that's 2 detachments that both feel really exciting and different. Yeah. And also then I know people have been running Talons for the toolkit of the stratagems. You've got way more options now and they all feel you've got to make some choices. Right. Which is all we ever want.
And you combine it with the stratagem changes to allow them to be used on things like epic deeds. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Good. It's nice. Much better.
Really so is the army back in the game?
I mean, I think just giving them access to the CP reduction is huge because they've got some amazing strats which they just couldn't access.
Have we seen any points changes with them? We're not really going to go over that.
There are no points changes for Custodes, other than some Forge World stuff.
It's interesting to reference that now, just given the significance of those 2 changes.
Adepta Sororitas, I'll give you a very, very brief rundown as we go through. Adepta Sororitas, Codex points are very wrong. You are increased in points from the Munitorum Field Manual as well. You are more expensive, but you are so much better. Yeah. It's like not even funny. So it's good because otherwise they would have been bonkers.
Yes. Yeah.
And speaking of bonkers.
Oh, here we go.
What, Mechanicus? Right. Is that what you want to talk about?
When they said that they were putting some changes in, boy. Right, now.
There's a lot of things under the Mechanicus. It's almost an entire page.
They have never really known how to deal with that mech, which is. Okay. So, first of all.
Strap in, guys.
The army rule is now, it's the same as before Doctrina or Protector. However, add the following faction, Doctrina Imperator's ability to Belisarius Call, the Corpse Akari, the Fulgurite, the Tech Priest Dominus, the Tech Priest Engineer, the Tech Priest Manipulus, and the Techno-Archaeologist. Basically everything other than the Castellan robots gets Doctrinas.
Right.
Very good. In addition, change the Protector Doctrine. Protector still gives you heavy, Conqueror still gives you assault.
Okay.
The thing about being in an opponent's deployment zone or your deployment zone, completely gone. Instead, you always get +1 ballistic skill for Protector and +1 weapon skill in Conqueror. Now that alone is a fantastic change. I despise the fact that they can be BS2 when they stand still because that was literally a major problem back in 9th edition was when you had an army hitting on 2s, re-rolling everything. Yeah. But here we go again. The downside is you have to stand still, so you are giving up ball control. So there is an element of sacrifice.
It's very good though, isn't it?
It is very good. And we're not done.
No, oh, okay.
It's now a 3rd bullet point.
Okay.
In the Protector Doctrine, each time a melee attack targets this unit, if it is a battle line keyword or it is within 6 inches of a battle line unit, Adeptus Mechanicus battle line, you subtract 1 from the hit roll.
Okay.
So, now bear in mind, your battle line is toughness free with a 4-up save and a 5-up in.
Yeah.
They're quite squishy.
Yeah.
They are quite squishy.
Can they still have access to ignore cover as well, right?
The basic battle line does, but like the big guns don't. So that one makes sense as a protector. You shoot better, you lock in and guard an area, and melee is worse against you. I like the fact that that is the melee downside, because on the Conqueror Imperative, although this is where it gets a little bit... So bear in mind you're getting assault weapons, you're getting +1 weapon skill. In addition, if you are battle line or you are within 6 of a battle line unit, you improve the AP of all of your attacks by 1. Melee and shooting.
Melee and shooting?
Yeah. So you can hit harder or you can hit more accurately with your shooting.
Okay.
And then so already, like, you can see that you've got non-AdMech players going, that's a lot of rules.
It's
They're getting into that issue again. And then you've got lots of moving parts. I really like what they're trying to do with AdMech, which is incentivize taking the battle line for stuff that's going to spread the canted full net.
Yeah.
It is the noosphere, it's the server, it's the rotor.
Yeah.
I like it. It's just a bit clunky.
Yeah.
And could get into that weird scenario of, everything hits really well and hits really hard, because guess what? There's a ton of weapon profile updates.
Yeah. Okay. Wow. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
Okay. We kick off. Well, Belisarius Call.
Before we do that, Belisarius Call has slightly changed.
Okay.
The Mantra of Discipline ability. So basically, he can pick one of his. He picks reroll ones. Benefit of cover, so it's the Primarch auras, where you can pick one of three. And his new one is, or it replaces the Battle Shock one. It's still the +1 to Battle Shock tests, but he also then gains the Battle Line keyword for until he selects it again. So he gives which again, he's Belisarius, cool. He is the central hub. He is the master server. That makes sense. Right, now, so many datasheet changes in terms of weapons.
Balistari, the Iron Striders.
Right. Double the shots. So you've got 2 las cannon shots with sustained and twin linked, because they've got 2 barrels, right? So that's why they were twin linked, one shot.
Right.
But now they're 2 shots.
But now
and they keep the sustained one.
They
and
keep
twin
sustained
linked.
one.
Am I right in thinking?
No, they lost twin link.
No, they've
Forgive
lost
me.
twin
They
link,
lost twin
guys.
link.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was double checking that.
Fine.
They have lost twin links.
Okay, I misread that. Apologies. Fine.
Okay. No, I mean,
But now we're going back
getting
to
reroll wounds on top of that would have been.
Yeah, but now we're going back to 9th edition, where it's just everything has a bazillion shots.
Yes, correct.
And also, if I'm not, am I right in thinking that if they're in one of the imperatives, like Conqueror, they'd also be AP4?
If they're in Conqueror, they're in AP4 if they're next to Belisarius Call or Battleline unit. But here is the offset:
That is savage.
They will only be hitting on 4s. Because they could have gone wild and gone, oh yeah, you get the +1 to hit, and +1 ballistic skill, and +1 AP.
That was the issue previously of them suddenly being like hitting on 2s, rerolling 1s with like...
Yeah, and rerolling 1s to wound, and then like las cannons, and you were AP -4, and blah, blah, yeah.
I mean, you're still on average getting 2 hits.
Quite good.
It's a 50% chance that you roll
So that's them, and the autocannons went up to 4 shots, but again, lost twin link. The Disintegrator, the Ferromite cannon is now D6 +1. I think it used to be D6. Fine, it's now an actual las cannon.
Sense. Yeah, makes
fine.
Sense.
That makes sense. The Sicarian Infiltrators now gain an extra attack, so they got 3 attacks each on both their tasers and their power weapons. Good. They're still weapon skill 4.
Yeah.
Like, this is fine. They're not suddenly weapon skill 3 and able to get +1 weapon skill and -1 to hit in combat.
Exactly right.
The Rust Stalkers received +1 attack and +1 strength, so they're strength 5 now, and then 5 attacks on the blades, or 5 attacks with the blade and cord claw.
Wait, sorry, just to go back. The Twin Cognis Lassan isn't 3 shots, it's 2 shots.
No, the Ferromite cannon, so that's on the floaty tank.
Okay.
Because it used to just be a D6 las cannon. Now it's an
Well, so
actual
the Twin Cognis Las Cannon actually on average is still only hitting once.
Yeah.
you might get
you might get
6
sustained. You
Okay,
might get sustained.
all
But
right.
that's if you're
I thought
going
it
for the
had gone 3
X-ray.
shots. I was like,
No. So the Transonic Razor and Cord Claw is 4 attack, strength 5, AP2 damage. Basically, so all of the Rust Stalkers gain +1 attack and strength on all of their melee.
Okay,
Cool.
Okay.
The Onaga June Crawler, the Daedalus Missile Launcher, doesn't look like it's changed, but it's put it in here for some reason. I'm not seeing any red. Oh, it's 2 shots now. It used to be 1 shot, I think.
Okay.
Cool.
Yeah.
Fine. I mean, it's anti-fly 2, strength 10,
-2 damage.
-2 D6 +1. Yeah, I mean, it's decent, because it's got the little other guns as well. The Eradication Beamer is 2 D3 shots now, up from D3.
Yeah.
Nice.
Which is nice. The Neutron Laser's 3 shots, up from 2 shots.
Nice.
And
D6 +2 now as well.
And D6 +2, yes,
Which is
nice.
So it's a bit more consistent.
And the Twin Onaga Heavy Phosphor Blaster is still twin linked, but is now 12 shots. I think it was 6 before. So 12 shots of strength 6, -1 damage 2. Ignore
twin
cover
linked.
and twin linked.
Nice.
That's pretty tasty.
Quite nasty.
Because the ignore cover will go a long way as well.
Yeah, it will.
Yeah.
Now.
Because it's damage 2 as well. Ooh, that's spicy.
It's a good infantry shredder. Now.
It might even be good against vehicles when you re-roll your
Twin
wounds.
linked, with twin linked. Yeah.
That's the thing. It becomes like, that's probably the gun I take all the time. Anyway,
Could be.
separately to that, carry on.
That's it for AdMech. Now you may be thinking, that's amazing. Oh my God, AdMech better. Everything has got more expensive. And I mean, barring, I think,
There's not horde mode anymore?
I mean, it's still relatively hoarded. Like when I say everything's got more expensive, it really depends.
Okay.
Like, I think the Rangers have gone up 5 points, the Vanguard have gone up 10 points, Belisarius Call is the same, the Flyers have gone up, but like all the Flyers have gone up. I think the Sicarians have gone up. Like pretty much everything has gone up in points.
Okay.
I've not done like the maths on it, but just off the top of my head, like an Onaga Dunecrawler has gone from 130 to 160 points. It's now appropriately costed for effectively what is a battle tank equivalent compared to other armies, and now operates like one as well. My only concern is the complexity of Doctriners and the power boost that it can give them in ideal circumstances. I like the fact that they've not gone all in on make that the killy one, make that the defensive one. And they've kind of done a bit of a split. But as we know, just getting AP on tap is very powerful. Even if you're hitting on 4s, you can still get a lot of shots out.
All of this is okay. I mean, they're going to reprint the cards, right?
I think we'll get to that.
We'll get to that.
They're going to reprint the cards.
We'll get to that.
So look, if you're an AdMech player, if you're an AdMech player, the changes are significant. However, remember that there will be a little bit more of a mental load to remember the extra rule that you've got, although you don't have to be reliant on deployment zones, which is great, as well as the changes to your data sheets and stuff. Overall, I much prefer it because I hated the fact that they were a horde army. But I also hate the fact that a basic guy, computer or not Stig, is hitting on 2s. I hate it. I don't care how technically advanced they are, they're not a Custodes. They should.
Seems wrong.
But they are much more limited in that respect because they have to stand still. So they are like bracing the shot. It's fine. It's just one of those things of like.
And again, this is a sort of classic issues of just 6-sided dice system.
Exactly.
You've got less wiggle room.
And I think at least it's that thing of like, instead of just making everything cheaper and cheaper and cheaper and cheaper and cheaper, it's like, okay, we're actually going to change the root issue. Which is good. Which also helps other factions too.
Massively. And if they hadn't have done the points increases, I'd have been like, I welcome our new robotic overlords. As it stands, I'd need to see them in action a bit more. On paper, you go, oh, it's a lot. But if you're also getting, I mean, again, I've not done the point. If you're getting like 20% less on the board, that's great for AdMech players because they're one of the most expensive armies to collect.
Really expensive to collect.
And it's also good for your opponent because they won't feel quite as oppressed.
But these are exciting changes.
Are an
AdMech player.
It's really good.
Awesome. We look forward to welcoming you to battlefield.
Everyone's sort of dined out quite well in this. I feel like everyone's got a little bit of salmon.
Okay, right. Eldari, I'm not seeing any pluses.
They're the same.
They are the same as they were before.
They had quite a hefty changes last time around. If anything's had quite a lot of changes, it tends to either have like a little sprinkling or a tweak. But
they've let them settle a bit.
There's
some points changes, but it's mostly on things that were in, spammed in the competitive scene. Shadow Spectres, Dark Reapers, Sweeping Hawks. They've all gone up.
Agents of the Imperium, again,
they're the same.
No changes. Astra Militarum, we do have changes.
Change here, boys.
Talk to me.
Bond Seldiers. So for the combined regiment, for the detachment, lethal hits now is all the time. But before everyone freaks out, and I really like this, infantry get lethal hits all the time, so they don't have to stand still against anything excluding monsters and vehicles.
It's not if it's regiment. So that is like the artillery stuff.
Specifically all the regiment, which tends to be your rough riders or
infantry in some capacity.
The boots on the ground stuff. Gets lethal hits all the time, because the idea is it's representing a huge, massive mass fire altogether is quite lethal. So it still will deal with Space Marines and stuff like that, but it's not suddenly 20 guardsmen and bringing down a knight from just lethal hits. They don't get the lethal hits against monsters and vehicles.
It's almost like their boots on the ground have been tasked by High Command to deal with the enemy's boots on the ground, like a functioning military would do.
And to bring down the monsters or vehicles, they have then got the same for squadron, but in reverse. So their lethal hits when it targets a visible monster or vehicle, it then gets the lethal hits.
Okay, so they specialised both the types.
Specialised, but much more mobile. And has to be visible. That's the key.
You can't just bombard something with lethal hits.
Because obviously artillery was still the thing which was kicking off.
But now you can zoom up the board with the Demolisher and get lethal hits with it.
Which is nice.
Which is very nice. And your
guard... It lets them play the mission more.
Exactly. Guardsmen can go forth and do stuff as opposed to being like, we hope something pops out from behind that wall. great.
Okay. Let's move on to Black Templars.
So this kind of covers a little bit of the Space Marines as well. Impulsors and repulsors can now carry more models. So impulsors can carry 7. You can finally put a character with 6 Blade Guard in an impulsor. Yay! Yeah, or if you're so inclined, you could put 2 of such squads in a repulsor because they carry 14 models.
Oh, nice. Yeah. Okay.
I honestly feel this has needed to happen for a while, and they just forgot what number they associate with an impulsor.
Because they kind of, when they did the Primaris range, the impulsor was clearly trying to be a Razorback.
Yeah.
But they didn't really release a Rhino equivalent.
No. Yeah.
So
and now it's kind of like a Land Raider equivalent.
Yeah.
Which is fine, which is fine.
Okay, well that's very cool.
I'm
What
not
would
sure.
also be cool?
I think points increases were very, very slight on the Gladiator.
Okay.
I think they missed off the fact that the Gladiator Black Templars get multi-melters.
Yeah, they've adjusted that to not getting multi-melters for free.
Blood Angels are the same.
So they are a bit more expensive.
Yeah, a little bit, because they've got a free multi-melter.
Yeah. Okay.
Blood Angels are the same. I don't believe there's any points changes on them. Chaos Knights, right.
Okay.
And again, this applies to the Imperial Knights as well, so we can skip over them.
Yeah, this is significant, isn't it?
Points-wise, I think like the big boy Knights have gone down like 10, 15 points, whatever. You might not take them unless...
I like this a lot.
Right. Super Heavy Walker ability. Change to the following. Each time a model with this ability makes a normal, advance, or fallback move, it can move through models rather than over them.
Okay.
A slight change in wording, not that important, excluding Titanic models, and sections of terrain features that are 4 inches or less in height. When doing so, it can move within engagement range of enemy models, but cannot end the move within engagement range, because some people were basically saying, you don't have the fly keyword, so therefore you can't walk over me, even though you're... Shut up!
Yeah.
This is the important one. Yeah. You can move through sections of terrain features that are more than 4 inches in height, but if you do so, you become battle shocked on a d6 roll over 1. I don't care. I get to walk through buildings. The buildings mean nothing to me. I'm a knight. I get to elbow drop my way through a hill.
I love this.
Now, no, I love this too, but listen, I just want to break this down a little bit, okay? Before everyone starts flapping their arms around, is that any terrain?
Any terrain that is 4 inches or
it's not a ruin.
You can move through sections of terrain features that are more than 4 inches in height, but if it does, after it has moved, roll a d6. On a 1, the model is battle shocked.
That's the only downside, that's it. You're not going to take mortal wounds, there's no damage, it's just if you roll a 1, you're battle shocked.
Once, if you did it every single game, you would 5 times over the course of a tournament, if you're playing in a 6-game event, be battle shocked. Oh no! Now, I say oh no, but remember that if you've got something like Storm Hostile Objective and you do that, and you roll a 1, you go, well, that's your entire game plan stuff.
Yeah.
No stratagems for you.
No.
Your opponent's going to be like, okay, I guess I'll take that objective that you're standing under, I don't care.
Yeah.
You could find yourself in a really weird scenario where you're like, well, I'm battle shocked, and your opponent goes, I'm better against you when you're battle shocked.
Yeah.
Right.
On the flip side of things, I get to smash through a wall.
Yeah, which is really cool.
It also gives the Titanic models some life, because you never see them.
But what I want to, look, this is a really cool rule. And it makes perfect sense going through ruins, all that jazz. But because they've not clarified that it is just ruins, in theory, you could have a 50-inch tower.
Yeah.
Complete sealed building.
Yeah.
And you can just move through it.
Yeah. As long as you've got enough movement, remember, you've got to clear it.
Yeah, you've got to clear it.
But
you could just move through it.
Yeah, man. I'm sorry, he's an Imperial Knight. Are you going to tell him that he's not allowed to?
No, I'm not going to tell him anything. I'll be running the other way.
Now, the key thing is it is normal, advance, or fallback. You cannot charge.
Yeah.
You can't be like, I'm hidden. You've got to set up for it. But it's such a good change. And also allows me to elbow drop my way through a hill.
Well, exactly. You could go through a hill.
You can go through a hill, you can go through buildings, you can go through, barricades are generally less than 4 inches or 2. And it is specifically, it still excludes Titanic, you can't smash through other stuff, but you can go through anything now. Just as long as it's not Titanic.
Wow.
Pretty naughty.
But there could be a downside.
Yeah.
Chaos Space Marines?
Yeah, okay. So Warp Talons and Warp Strike ability. So the Warp Talons keep coming up. They obviously are like the unit that the competitive team is using all the time. What's the change?
They have to have destroyed a unit to go uppy downy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Which is good.
Okay.
Because
for my Emperor's Children, that's less good, but okay, I understand.
From a balancing, it's just at the end of the fight phase, if this unit destroyed 1 or more enemy units this phase. So you can still do it in your opponent's phase, which is really powerful.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
it's really powerful.
Yeah.
You can still do it
You just
in
need to
your
have killed
phase.
something.
Because you might be on the defensive, you fight them off, you go up, your opponent's turn next, you go, oh, rapid ingress. It's still really powerful, but you have to be using them aggressively. You can't just get to do it because.
It makes them, again, focus them on killing stuff rather than just being like, I'm going to use it for points. It's like...
You want to use it, you want to use it because you're being aggressive with them rather than because you're going to do cleanse.
Yeah.
Right, now, since we're on Chaos Space Marines, any points changes?
I
mentioning?
think there was a couple, like Venom Crawlers went up slightly. I think most of them have stayed the same because they're
pretty
still
true to the Codex?
relatively true to the Codex. From the top of my head, I think, again, there's going to be some changes because there's always changes. Like, I think Legionnaires went up to 90 points to put them on par with Assault Intercessors, although Assault Intercessors are still cheaper, I think.
85,
Yeah. I think it's because Legionnaires can take a heavy weapon.
Yeah, because they do get access to other bits. They get plasma guns and stuff.
That's probably
because their Legionnaires are ubiquitous. They could be ranged or...
they can be ranged, although their rule is still only for...
But that makes Noise Marines cheaper than Legionnaires.
Does it?
Yeah.
It's fine, no one
That's
runs...
a terrible change.
No one runs Noise Marines.
Just so that you know, you're watching this Games Workshop, you need to readdress that.
No one plays it's fine.
To make any sense. Okay, right. Chaos Demons.
Right, now this
Have they finally made the Chaos Demons?
I don't know.
I don't know.
Edition of Warhammer 40,000.
We moved sideways once again.
We've gone sideways. They've had some points changes, but I mean, it's like, I think the Demonettes are 100 points for 10 now. I think they've gone down 20. It's like, okay, fine.
Right.
However...
Still capped at squad sizes of 10?
Yes.
Yeah.
However, now this is quite nice.
Listening Games Workshop? Nah.
I don't mind them being capped at 10, but I want them to be scary.
I want 20 demons.
I don't want 20. I want them to be scary. Now, there's a lot of paragraphs here and a lot of changes for what I will condense down into a much
Please do.
nicer.
What's the
neater.
highlight?
The highlight is that Greater Demons have a 6-inch aura of Shadow of Chaos.
Nice.
Okay, cool. So they are now a nexus.
They're a nexus of the Shadow of Chaos.
That makes sense.
The key thing is obviously if you're Khorne, you can only arrive within range of a Bloodthirster. If you're Tzeentch, that's what it is. But they've done it. I know why they've done it, because they've had to clarify specifically that whilst you're in range of the your army's Shadow of Chaos, or within a Bloodthirster, a Great and Clean One, a Keeper of Secret, a Lord of Change, Rotigus, Shalaxi, Hellbrain, Scarbrand, Fate, blah, 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 you do the D for Immortal Wounds if you fail. And then you also get the 6-inch Deep Strike if you're in range of a Bloodthirster, Great and Clean One, Lord of Change, blah, 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 that shares the same keyword as you. Data sheets, it then does it again. Greater Demon of Khorne, whilst a friendly Khorne Legionnaires Demonica unit is within 6 inches of this model, that unit is within your army Shadow of Chaos. That's for the benefit of the morale boost. What I've explained is 6-inch aura in the Shadow of Chaos. If it's a friendly unit, it has to have the same God keyword as you. Done. That's all you needed to do, G-dubs. Assume that your audience isn't quite... I mean, they clearly needed that to be put in because someone somewhere would have... Look, it's a good change. It's a really good change.
Speaking of good changes.
Oh, are you going to forgive the unforgiven?
I will forgive the unforgiven.
Okay.
Thank you. Whoever was responsible for some of these, thank you. So we'll start with the Unforgiven Task Force for the Dark Angels. This is just the amuse-bouche. So in the command phase, you select one Adeptus Astartes unit from your army, and to the start of your next command phase, add one to the objective control characteristic of models in that unit.
It has a use.
It has a use now. Okay. Granted, it's still the weird sort of one-size-fits-all Dark Angels thing of like, we're really grumpy, but it kind of works a bit better now. Yeah. Now,
it is actually very powerful as well.
It definitely is.
Also
it can be.
Tactically speaking, that can be very, very good.
But, just again, thank you. The Inner Circle Task Force Detachment. The Val targeting and Val's targets, how they work now, has changed quite significantly. And again, we'll get on to whether or not they should do some reprinting, because it's all essentially completely different.
I'm sure they're going to do new cards for all of this, right?
We'll get to it.
These cards are not very old.
So this just says, Val target detachment rule changed to. It doesn't even say add, it just changed the whole thing.
Oh, just change it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So now at the start of your movement phase, select one of the following: defensive footing or aggressive push. Ooh, indeed. Ooh. So the defensive footing is you select one objective marker you control. To the start of your next movement phase, that objective marker is your vowed objective marker. Now, to note, Deathwing infantry units from your army that make an attack to a unit within range of one or more vowed objective markers, add 1 to the wound roll. So that is still the same.
What do you mean 1 or more? You just said 1, James.
What?
How could you possibly get more vowed objectives?
Because aggressive push. Select 1 or more objective markers you do not control. Until the start of your next movement phase, each of those objective markers is now your vowed objective markers. If a rule refers to a unit or model being within range of your vowed objective marker, that rule takes effect in that if that unit or model was in range of 1 or more vowed objective markers. So essentially, everything is vowed if you don't control it.
Yes.
It's we will take the field.
Yes.
This is so much more powerful than it was before. Because it's not like, right, I've kind of got to give my entire game plan away of I'm going there, brace thyself. It's cool. I'm either going to hold what I've got or I'm coming for you.
Yeah.
Which is so much more powerful. And that isn't even where my excitement really gets.
None of this matters if the Deathwing still hit like wet fish. None of it matters.
Well,
you have your little swords, do you? I'm not scared.
Finally, they've kind of got it right with the Deathwing Knights. So they're not silly, which is equally, look, I love the Deathwing, but I'm also not a fool. I didn't want them to be like, nah, they've all got like strength 10 power swords. I'm not a monster. So now the Mace of Absolution is still strength 6, but it is now AP -2,
Which is nice.
which is nice, and it is damage 2. But
Yeah, but this is a big but. This is a big but.
big but. Anti-monster 4 and anti-vehicle 4.
Yeah, doesn't this stack with the add 1 to wound roll?
No.
That won't stack with the add 1 to wound.
For example, I was about to take off out of my chair.
It won't stack.
So it won't stack. Now,
But bear in mind, you might not be in the Deathwing detachment. And
No,
just
this
taking
is true.
Deathwing
that is what is brilliant about this, because the key thing is the power weapons now, still slightly sad they're called power weapons and not like Deathwings.
relic swords.
Yeah,
nice.
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Has still got more attack. It's strength 6, it is AP -2, but it is now damage 2.
Great.
They're like Blade Guards.
They're like
but
Blade,
better because they've got more attack.
At least they've got a Mastercrafted power weapon now.
exactly.
These aren't insane changes, it just finally makes them be a choice.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, do I want to take Blade Guard or Deathwing Knights?
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Because they're the really tough ones.
Yeah.
Now, they have received some points increases because
not
that's not
much.
crazy.
But the Maces of Absolution are really good.
Exactly, right? Now, the thing is,
really good.
if you're going in a circle, suddenly your swords might be wounding vehicles and fours anyway because of the
Because of the
plus
+1 to
That
win.
is
But
true.
they've got to be in range of an objective, whereas the Maces gives you utility.
If you're running them in the Unforgiven Task Force, or you're running them even in the Ravenwing stuff, suddenly
or a
dropping them-
Gladius if you're a monster.
What?
But if you do
Stormlance Deathwing.
but suddenly the Maces of Absolution are your all-rounders now. Like, regardless of what's going on, they will be able to deal with
They're gonna
any
take
target
on
that throws
something.
at them, which is what you want Deathwing Knights to be. Like,
Yes.
yeah, they shouldn't be wounding a vehicle on 2s, but it's that kind of thing of like, they will slog their way through that thing.
They're going to crumple the side of that armor,
Yeah,
even if it takes
because
them a while, because
they're
they'll be...
Deathwing Knights.
Yeah. And don't forget, it's hitting on 2s.
Exactly.
still hitting
Attacks.
Yeah.
Those are
Like,
quality
Yeah.
attacks.
It suddenly makes them really exciting again. Which
Look,
is nice.
If someone put
Now-
them down against me, I'd be like,
Especially
thank you.
if they've got their friends with them.
Right, so what do the little people do? The Inner Circle companions?
Little people
Nothing
no
to
longer.
advise.
So,
okay.
the Inner Circle Companions. Now, when we did the review, we were a little bit disappointed that these guys were just a little bit, and if you haven't watched the review, check it out on demand. But these guys were just a little bit like, they're cool, but
Yeah.
They were worse Blade Guards.
they were just, worse Blade Guard.
Right.
Now, however, the Calibanite Greatswords
Okay.
have been elevated to -2, which is very, very nice, and was kind of necessary to make them a bit more spicy. So now your strike profile, which you can pick strike or sweep at the start of any of the fighting phases, 4 attacks, weapon skill 3, strength 6, -2, damage 2 with lethal hits on the strike, or with the sweep, sustained hits 2.
Ooh, goodness me.
5 attacks, strength 6, -2, damage 1.
They could go cleaving in
So they
swords,
can
couldn't they?
properly now
Woohoo!
seriously mince some things up. And they are
Yeah.
also in a circle, so they will be getting they're pretty sure they're Deathwing infantry.
Yeah, they are.
So they
Savage.
will get the +1 to wound in
Savage.
the inner circle task
They are
force.
blenders.
You've now got Azrael giving them a 4-up invulnerable if he joins them. Suddenly makes them like a Blade Guard equivalent. The best thing about all of this is now it's not like, well, Blade Guard are the obvious choice. You've got 3 really cool units that if you're picking a Dark Angels force, you're like, I've got to make some choices now.
Yeah.
And that's what you want.
Yeah,
And you
yeah.
want to be like, ooh, do I take one of each? Do I take lean into something? You've got options, not just, oh, they're a bit pants, I'll take this.
Yeah.
Well done, everyone involved.
You did it.
Way!
You made James happy.
Let's go on to a different shade of green. It's the Death Guard.
Right, so I think points-wise, the Blight Haulers went down slightly, the Blight Lord Terminators went down slightly. Beard, who loves the Death Guard, said, yeah, cool, they can be as cheap as they want. I'm still never going to run them outside of, funsies, because they're just a bit pants. Right. The only change that they've had Balance Dataslate-wise is the Biologus Putrefier, his grenade ability has just been reworded to fit the new version. So it's once per battle round, you can target one unit from your army with this ability with the grenade stratagem for 0 CP. So this is one of those rare instances where they've just spent a big thing saying, if it mentions the name of the stratagem, you can do it again. And this one, it's like, remove the line about doing it again because we don't want you doing like multiple grenades every turn.
It's like a cleaning up of stuff just so it always consistent.
Deathwatch, no changes apart from some slight points drops on the Watchmaster and Artemis. Drukhai, no rules changes, some slight points drop I think on Grotesques and Ravagers, weirdly. Stop trying to sell Ravagers. You've done enough. You've done enough,
they
Ravagers.
They do really well for me. I don't know why they keep reducing the points.
Genestealer cults, no rules changes because you just got Codex.
Out,
Points changes, there's quite a significant amount, mostly to kind of bring a lot of the characters up in power level.
So Codex is already invalid?
Points, yeah.
Standard. I mean, that's standard these days,
but I think it's...
They even print it now.
Put the points. Don't put the points in the book.
But I think overall...
Newsflash. Just don't put them in the book.
Yeah, there's no point.
Save yourself that paper. And then when you save
Think
yourself
about how many trees Games Workshop could save if they didn't put it in.
But do you know what I would do instead?
The offset of the CO2 could be used to fuel an app.
Right. And then for the people that want something physical, imagine a world where every big Balance Dataslate change or errata they did every, say, 6 months. What they do with the index cards is the index cards are just the data sheets. And then with the Balance Data Slate, each faction gets the 3 cards, which they could sell for, very cheap. Please sell it for very cheap. But those 3 cards then just get added onto your data slates. And then you've got all of your new detachment rules and everything on these cards. And you never waste the pages of paper in the Codex in the first place. Right? Which is what they'll do, right?
Are we saving this for later or are we going now?
I think he's going now.
Oh, let's do it. We're doing this now.
Just do it now.
Well, every time I say it, you guys kind of ignore me. I feel like, have I said something
I'm
wrong?
not Games Workshop.
You make a really important point, and I think a lot of these changes, we'll still go through the rest of them as well, are super exciting. They're getting us really, it could change the way a lot of these armies work. That's brilliant.
It does, it already has. Yeah. Pretty significantly.
Everyone, so the initial thought, I was reading these just going, oh my God, there's so many changes. About 5 minutes in, and I'm like, like everyone here is excited about these changes, which is what we want.
Yeah,
you don't want to be nervous about an update.
It's good.
You don't want to be scared of an update.
Yeah. And I think they've done the right things in so many places. Now, all I want them to do, and maybe this will happen, as of filming, we haven't heard anything of if this is going to happen. Please, you get so much goodwill, Games Workshop, so much goodwill. Just be like, if you've already bought the Codex, or you've already bought the cards, just be like, pop in the code in the back of the book, and we'll send you a PDF with new data cards.
Yeah, the updated thing that you can then print off.
You can print off. Look, we're not going to do the paper thing. Look, it's 2024. Look, we want to save some trees, save some paper. Look, we'll send you a free digital download that you can then print off, or just stick over whatever you want. Just to make it easy for people.
I guess my counter argument to play devil's advocate, because that's what I like to do, is they kind of already do that. It's in the app. If you've bought the Codex, your app will be updated.
Exactly. Yeah.
Where I think it becomes a problem is if you're a brand new player.
Yes.
And that is where it's down to the salespeople to be like, listen,
don't push.
If you're gonna buy this book, you have to make sure that you download this as well. But more ideally, it would be if you're gonna download this book, the QR code at the back will take you to the updated version of those rules immediately. Exactly, yeah. You don't have to go hunting for it as the consumer.
That is all they need to do. Because you're right. If you've got the app, it will update.
It will do it
as
for
and when. Great. But like you say, if you're just getting into Warhammer, it's becoming that thing of like, have you seen the FAQ? Have you seen the balance data set? What do these words mean?
Well, I feel that you now need potentially multi-page documents.
Yeah.
With the index cards that you've already bought, or the army cards, if your codex is out, and then your codex, part of what's in the codex is invalid. from print.
Yeah.
It's fine if you
Which is
play in
just-
tournaments every weekend, or you
Yeah.
do this and you
Yeah.
create
Yeah.
content.
Yeah,
But if you play, like, I know so many people that are like, I maybe play like 2-3 times a year. They ignore all of this.
Of course.
They
Well,
just
it's
use the
too
code because they're just like, I don't
intimidating.
care.
You can't keep
Yeah.
up with
I
the
can't keep
changes.
up.
I'm going to throw it out there. I'm certain there's someone probably watching right now that's like, where are you reading this information
Yeah.
from?
Yeah.
What are you talking about?
Yeah.
What is Warcom?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but it is genuinely that thing, as I think. The app, it is pushing you to the app now, basically.
Which is, to be fair, is what we've always wanted.
Which
It is
yeah,
what we
it is
wanted.
what we
It is what
wanted.
we've wanted.
But
I
they
just don't
need
want you to-
The consumer journey is still not quite there.
I don't want you to pay for a codex on top of the subscription.
No, that's
Yeah,
That for me is
Anyway.
not cool, Games Workshop.
Genestealer
There you
cults,
go.
points changes. I think it comes out in the wash, like in terms of character and unit.
What about my Grey Knights?
Grey Knights? They receive one change to Vortex of Doom. It now can't
This
target.
is my favourite power.
Don't care.
It's my favourite power.
No, it's still good.
What does it do?
You just can't target it on lone operative unless you're within 12.
I can't target a lone operative. Oh, okay, that's
Unless
fine.
you're within 12.
Okay.
Which is because it.
So it's still really good.
Yeah, it's still really good.
yeah.
It still does 2d3 mortal wounds
Yeah.
on a 2 to 5.
it's still done.
It's just.
It's really dumb. I thought those librarians are so good.
I don't think there is. I think Castellan Crow received a points update. It's because you won the last league.
Yeah.
And I
Yes.
think
I shouldn't be allowed to run things with mortal wound output though.
there was something else that increased, but I don't think it was like
Six.
major. Imperial Knights we've already covered with the elbow dropping through a hill. Leagues of Votann are unchanged. I think points-wise they stayed the same, which is good.
Okay,
Because
yeah.
they were already kind of approaching a Horde army.
Yeah.
Necrons, Canoptic Wraiths and Doomstalkers went up slightly. Good, they were silly. The Hypercrypt Legion Detachment, Cosmic Precision. So this is explicitly the 3-inch deep strike stratagem.
Yep.
Cannot be done on monsters.
Okay.
So I
you're
can't,
Catan.
I can't pick up the Void Dragon and deep strike him 3 inches away. I can still pick up the Void Dragon
Yeah.
and put him in the flanks,
Yeah.
but I can't pick him up and deep strike him 3 inches away.
Sort of guarantee your.
And guarantee
It will be
next
on the
turn
charge, yeah.
charge.
Orks.
Right. Good changes here, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mob mentality detachment rule.
This is for the green tide.
Yeah.
That we did a video on it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
I remember.
your 5-up invuln is now a 6-up invuln. Your reroll 1s is now only for boys with 10 more models and becomes a 5-up invuln. So you
Yeah.
still get your 5-up invuln, but you need to be boys only,
Yeah.
in a big brick, and you don't get reroll 1s. Much cleaner for the game because there's less rerolls.
It also helps with the fact of like if you've got multiple things with blast shooting at one unit of boys, it's just sort of like okay, cool. They have a 5-up invuln because there's
And
20
now
of
they're
them,
6-up, yeah.
and now they're a 6-up,
Yeah.
as opposed to like wait, so I'm rerolling for this thing, and then
Yeah.
you shoot something else. Am I still rerolling? It's clean.
Also, like, it's a bit of a weird one because it's a shame that it doesn't now that detachment doesn't give any benefit to anything other than boys.
yeah.
But to be fair, if you're going to run the green tide, you should be running boys.
Yeah.
It also does help them get some extra life out of the war.
Yes,
Because previously the
massively
war would be like, yeah, +1 attack, strength, and advance and charge is great, but the 5-up invuln's wasted. Whereas now you go, all my units have been a bit battered. The
war.
good thing I've still got the war in my
Yeah.
pocket.
Yeah,
So that's
they can
nice.
get up into the field,
Yeah.
down war, and get in your face.
Tide
of
of Muscle is now +1 to the charge roll and reroll the charge if you've got 10 or more models. It used to be add the battle round to the charge roll, which was hilarious.
It was very funny.
But very stupid. Go Get 'em is now, you can reroll the D6 if you've got 10 or more models rather than flat 6, which is the Berserker move. Mega Knobs are a 5-up Fear No Pain in the Wild, not a 4-up.
Praise be.
Which is good because it looks like, if you look at Aberrants and Archiflagellants, 4-up Fear No Pains are going away a little bit, which is good.
I think they're
Mega Knobs
realising-
also received a massive points hike. They're now...
Oh, they're expensive.
They're 40 points a model, not 30.
Yeah.
Which is a huge points
Yeah,
increase in the
makes
grand
sense.
scheme of
But
things.
they're also still great.
Oh, they're still amazing.
Yeah.
Like 5-up Fear No Pain
It's still really good.
is nothing to sniff at when you've got a unit that is toughness 6 with 3 wounds and a 2-up save and a 5-up invuln because of the war. They're still hard as nails. Yeah.
Space Marines.
Some changes to the Ironstorm.
Yes, Ironstorm, you target augury, web, delete aura from this enhancement in your command phase, select one Adeptus Astartes vehicle within 6 inches, and then it gets the lethal hits. So you're not getting these crazy buffs.
Yeah.
You've also got the Master of Machine War enhancement. Again, remove aura, you pick a vehicle. It's to stop the kind of Iron Hands Death Star returning, which was starting to creep up a bit more.
was, yeah.
So it's mainly changes like that. Changing CP costs. It's all pretty much on the Ironstorm. It's just then catching up with the transports.
Yeah.
So your repulsors,
Yeah,
your
as mentioned.
impulsors now have higher capacities you can take. 6-man units and a character like Blade Guard.
Yeah. What's the Mercy's weakness CP?
So that stratagem, it was one
Yeah.
CP. It was if you're shooting at something that is, I believe it was below starting strength. It might have been below half strength. I can't recall. You'd get sustained hits 1. If you were a vehicle, you'd get it on 5s.
Yeah.
Ah, okay.
What in your army of vehicles, which is now also getting lethal hits on 5s as well. It's now 2 CP.
Okay.
It all makes sense because it was getting a bit with the enhancements. You were getting these mega bubbles of doom.
Right. Let's talk Space Wolves.
Okay.
They've had a rough old ride in 10th, I think.
They've had a rough old ride.
Hey.
That was great.
What?
That was really good.
Rough or Russ? Oh.
No, rough. It's
So now, I love the Champions of Rust attachment
I really like
because it's super fluffy, and not just because they're wolves.
Good one, Chef.
Pat my back. Because it's proper evocative of what I like about the Space Wolves, which is Space Vikings going on a saga, not DMX up in here. But look, will this still incentivize you to take it when you can just go all Thunderwolf Cavalry and be Storm Lance? No,
I hope so.
But what you do is at the start of the first battle round, select a saga. It's active. The only saga you're not allowed to choose is the Saga of Majesty, which is the increase your OC one. What this reads as is at the beginning of the game, choose the Saga of the Bear and give your army a 6-up feel no pain.
Yeah.
Great. Well, that's really good.
It is good.
That is really good.
You can still get the others. You just have to achieve them throughout the game.
Yeah, sure.
So it just means you start with one.
You start with a saga already completed, which makes sense because you have already completed part of a saga, being a Space Viking.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Which is nice.
It's really nice.
They did receive points increases on the Thunderwolf Cavalry because they were obnoxiously cheap. And weirdly, Wolfen. Don't know why.
What?
I don't know why.
What, with their jelly hammers this edition?
Remember they're damage 2 now.
Oh, they did.
They are damage 2. But again,
aren't they still only like strength 6, as I recall?
I think they're strength 6. I think they're 4 attack, strength 6 minus 1 damage 2. It's because I guess they're going to assume that you're a Storm Lance and get an advance in charge, or are going to be getting sustained.
They can't be stronger than a Deathwing Knight. Come on now.
Oh, the Dark Angel
They're
Space
Wolfen with thunder hammers.
But Deathwing Knight with a Mace of Absolution.
Not Thunder Hammers.
Yeah, I know they're Wolfen hammers.
Listen, I don't know why they got a points increase. It's very strange. Tau, right now Tau are a weird one. No points changes. Changes. No rules changes because you just had a codex. They did receive some points changes. The Hammerhead went up. That's fine. Kroot remained the same. That's also fine. Strike squads went down by 5 points. Who cares? All your crisis suits went down by 20 points.
Yeah, that's pretty wild.
And they were already quite good. Now here's the weird thing.
It's a bit weird.
Now here's the weird thing, right?
Once it gets to star size for suits like 100.
110. Now here's where I get really confuzzled. I'm going to go off on a slight rant tangent.
A rangent.
Yes. These sorts of things are ostensibly for competitive play.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Most balancing comes from competitive play and competitive play testers and people that only play the game competitively, despite the fact that half the rules team do not play competitively.
True.
Yeah. Crisis teams were never seen competitively because they weren't point sufficient.
Right.
Hence why they've received points drops.
So now they're point sufficient?
But now they're point sufficient, but in casual games they were already really good.
Yeah.
And also a 5-point drop on a strike squad, no one cares. Like it's just, that's an arbitrary points change. Whereas a 20-point drop on Crisis and I think it's a 15-point drop on the Cold Star and a 10-point drop on the Enforcers.
Wow. So basically...
Enforcers were already good because it was like 80 points. Would you like 4 Fusion Blasters? Yes, please.
Have they fixed the Riptide?
I was really hoping
guys,
the Riptide would have a different gun.
They fixed the Riptide, guys?
I think for
they
me...
did it for a Dread Knight. Well, they tried to.
The sad thing for me is more that it's that thing of, if you're new to the game and you want to pick up Tau and it's this, oh cool, all-star unit, that's like, what, a box of 3 is like 40 quid or something.
I think they're 45 quid for free.
45 quid or like, what, like $60, whatever that'll be, like US. It's that kind of thing of like, they're only 100 and
something points.
Yeah.
That's the same as like...
Well, I think the game is way too cheap.
Well, I ran them the other day, and I used every crisis suit that we owned, and 2 characters, and a Hammerhead, and stealth teams, and strike squads, and breaches, and I had quite a lot on the board. Oh, broadsides went down 20 points as well. Yeah. Because broadsides were being used at 90 points, and then they changed it to 110, and then no one used them. So competitively, they became unviable, and now they're going to be viable again.
Yeah.
Also, I think Monkar played a fact in that because it gave them lethal hits on everything for the first 3 turns, which was power mode. and they've now swapped that. They did that ages ago. But my list, I've got another 130 points to play with. So I could take another, if we own them, another unit of crisis suits.
Like
we don't own them, but I was already going, that's a lot of
just horde those.
I mean, don't get me wrong, a horde of crisis suits, that's a retaliation cadre going in.
When we did the review, like I was like, you could maybe points per meeting run like 36 crisis suits or something. It's like, now you probably have change.
Well, no, because you've already reached the cap, and now you can just run more broadsides. It's very strange. It's very strange. But sure.
Yeah.
Thousand Suns. I think they received like 1 points drop on the Exalted Sorcerer on disc. You might be thinking, but why would they do that? He was already busted. It's because he now works like every other movement reduction thing in the game. He doesn't half your movement advance and charge. He minuses it by 2.
Yeah.
It's also, rather than it being a power at the end of your movement phase on a 2+, it's in your shooting phase after this model has shot a non-monster or vehicle unit that is hit by your arcane fire is -2 to your movement, advance, and weapon and charge.
Yeah.
Still very powerful, but not an automatic that unit's out the game.
Yeah, exactly right.
Temporal Surge can't be used on the same unit more than once per phase, so you
Makes
can't
sense. Yeah.
move up again, shoot, move back, which was a tactic. Doombolt is the same thing as the Vortex of Doom. You can't target.
Stops you suddenly being able to snipe.
You can't target lone op. You have to be within 12. You have to follow the actual rules of the game. Sure. Twist of Fate is a big change. It is now increase your AP by 2 for all range attacks rather than they don't get armor saves. So it means a Land Raider is going to get a save against your bullets.
Yes.
Which is good.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
And this is the big change. In my opinion, the Cabal of Sorcerers, you cannot pick a model that has already been selected for Cabal of Sorcerers this turn. This turn.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you need to. So you might have loads of Cabal points, but if you've only got 2 Psychers on the board, you can only ever do 2.
Yeah. Right.
Because you can't go. He's going to do that, and then he's also going to do this ability. He's going to move Doombolt and then yeet himself backwards with his enhancement. These are all good changes to make it a bit neater. It doesn't fix the inherent problem of Thousand Suns, which is you can't realistically take anything other than Psychers to get your army roll, which is a pity. But that's just an inherent problem of a Psychic army. You know, so be it. Nids. Katie was very happy.
Yes.
She literally screed and squeed. Synapse. I don't believe the Synapse rule itself has changed. It's 3d6 instead of 2d6 for battle shock checks. But you also, if you're within 6 of a Synapse, get +1 strength in melee.
Ooh,
that's really good.
Which is quite nice.
Very nice.
In addition, Shadow in the Warp, if you are within 6 inches of a Synapse creature when you're taking your battle shock check, as a result of Shadow in the Warp, not just all the time, it's -1 to the test.
That's nice.
That will stack with things like a Neurotyrant on the board, which is very nasty. Crusher Stampede, Enraged Behemoths, this is the detachment rule, this has changed. So each time a Tyranids monster from your army makes an attack, add 1 to the hit roll if it's below starting strength, add 1 to the wound roll if it's below half strength. That's the same. In addition, whilst a Tyranids monster unit from your army, excluding battle shock units, is at its starting strength, you add 2 to its OC. So there's a benefit to being healthy. It's a neat little change. The main thing is Untrammeled Ferocity allows you to smash through walls like your own Imperial Knight.
Okay.
That's cool.
God dang it.
Cool. That's very cool.
You see my unit of Carnifexes with old one eye? Walls cannot stop me now. Hive Tyrant, so this is the Foot Tyrant, gets lethal hits as well as Assault in a 6-inch aura, which is very cheeky.
Oh, okay.
Neurolictors are now Synapse, as they always should have been. Neurotyrants, the big brain bug, can lead zone fights.
Well, that just makes sense.
Also makes it, I mean, they were quite good anyway, but now he gives them, because he gives them +1 to hit, and I believe +1 to wound against stuff that's below half strength.
Wow.
They've got like las cannon brains.
They've got las cannon brains. I think they've got 2, they're half range, I think they're only 24, but they're like 2 shots.
I can hear the buzzing of their brains coming back to targets.
Broodlords and Parasite of Mortrexes are now Synapse with Shadow in the Warp, as they should have been. Morlocks, Raveners, and Trigons are now Vanguard Invaders. They're snakies. The Exocrine's Bioplasmic Cannon got +1 strength, which is a bit weird. It's now strength 9 rather than strength 8. Helps against rhinos and stuff like that, I suppose. It's winning on 4s. And the Tyrannofex is D6+6 rather than 2d6 on its damage, which is good.
Which is nice, because there's nothing worse than on 2d6 rolling like 2 1s.
I don't believe, I don't believe there's many points changes for the Tyranids off the top of my head. World Eaters, 8 bound got cheaper, but there's no other changes.
Okay.
That is already a big boy.
Huge.
We're not done.
Yeah.
So then we go on to the core rules. This is core rules updates.
Yeah.
Okay, we've covered the factions.
We have. So
Okay.
there's a lot to sift through there, and there's more besides on top of the faction erratas and FAQs, which we're not going to go through.
This is 33 pages long.
Now this includes.
This is 33
I
pages
know.
long.
This includes. I can hear someone already. He's far away, down on the south of Spain and the Strait of Gibraltar. guys, why do I need an 18-page document to play my game? I love you, Pardo. I love you, Pardo. Never change, Pardo.
But this is
It's true, though.
arguably
It's-
as long as
This is
the
fa-
actual core rules.
Yeah.
as there
Yeah, I
is.
think so.
Yeah.
Now, bearing in mind, this is 33 pages, but it is, I think it's 9 pages of erratas and updates to the core rules,
Okay.
and like 2 pages of diagrams in here, and
Okay.
like pictures. So it's, it's still quite a lot.
You should also say,
And
as
there's
well,
a huge FAQ section as well, which we're not going over because it's very meaty, and there's a lot of stuff which is kind of, you can tell, there's almost a part of it which is a bit like, you can tell that they are like, really?
a lot of it, the
yeah.
answer should just be, come on now.
Yeah. Okay, right. So
we
rather
won't
than me
go
go
through-
through the bullet points.
Yeah,
here,
we won't go over the designer's commentary either because it's very chunky. But there is one thing that I did want to point out in the designer's commentary. It's my favorite change to any rule that Games Workshop have ever done.
Go on.
There's a section on what constitutes a round base.
What?
It says round bases. There are rules which refer to round bases. These are bases which are circular in shape as opposed to an oval base which is oval in shape. That is word for word what it says. And it's like someone had to ask that for that to be put in. Or they knew deep down that someone somewhere would try it. They're cutting you off at the pass. You know who you are. I love. That is definitely one of those things where I just like.
Yeah.
You didn't need to put it in, but I'm kind of glad you did with the parentheses of going. An oval base is oval.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like it's just. It's that little bit of sass.
Yeah,
right. So there's a ton of changes in here.
What are the highlights here? What are the significant core rules updates, please?
All redeployments, doesn't matter how they're worded, are now done after deployment. So the Phobos Captain previously, and a lot of them are covered in the index erratas, are before determining the first turn, after deployment. It's now always before determining first turn, doesn't matter what your rules say.
Yeah.
And most of those have been changed. Unit coherency, they've clarified that if you cannot set up in any way, shape or form in coherency, you cannot deep strike.
Nice.
And that's the unit cannot deep
Yeah,
strike.
yeah.
So if there's no more edge cases of like, well, I've got 9 models in my unit, but I can only set up 8, so I guess 1 will die, but now I can get this cheeky charge off just because your opponent's slightly mismeasured. No, you can't set up at all. Out of phase rules, I think is basically the same. They've just kind of clarified them a little bit. A lot of these are changes that were in like, not unofficial FAQs, but like the Grand Tournament FAQ for the Dallas Open.
Yeah.
And it's now kind of enshrined in the rules for everyone to use.
It's like they've run a few tournaments or seen it out in the wild a bit more, so just like we're going to condense all of the things we've learned into this document, which is good.
You know, so I mean, like, again, this is a bit of a weird one. Like, whilst a unit is battle shocked, all models in that unit are considered battle shocked. Thanks, I guess, for clarifying that. But it's, it's also, if you are subject to a rule like a Chaos Knight, which is you're below starting strength, you've got to take battle shock, you don't have to do it if you're also below half strength.
Right.
So there's no like double dipping on stuff. It's a lot of things like that. Persisting effects, how it applies. Again, I'm sure that was in the designer's commentary. But it's now in the core rules, which I'm hoping, Games Workshop, you will update the free PDF, which is available on your website, so that people who are new to the game can look at it without then needing to look at this page as well.
It's great that they do put these all out for people to download and see other changes, but it's that thing I think we all collectively always worry, like we are on it in terms of knowing these things. But
we
for
do it
people
for
coming in after everyone's already finished the party, it's like, this is the route. Like, just change it all in retrospect. You're fine.
Right, moving overhanging models.
There's some big changes to movement. Big changes to movement. Part of it I love, part of it I'm like, oh.
Yeah, part of it, it makes me feel a bit biley in my throat.
The bit that is good, whilst moving, each time you move a model, other than when a model remains stationary, you can move it across the battlefield in any combination of straight lines and pivots. We'll get to that section in a minute. Whilst you're moving it, no part of its base can be moved through an enemy model or across the edge of the battlefield, but it can move through friendly models. That's all the same. Vehicles, monsters can't do it unless they have fly. Whilst moving in a straight line, it can be moved through any space its base can fit through, but it cannot end its move somewhere over the model that cannot be placed. This allows you to have someone like Angron on the edge of the board and your wings overhang it. It also allows someone like Angron to have his wing overhang a ruin whilst you move past it. Tournament players.
Yeah.
This is a... It was an edge case, and it was one of those few things where you'd almost never see it come up, but it would always leave such a sour... I think I saw it pop up once on a stream where someone was like, you can't actually move Angron like that because his wings overhang in the ruin. Yeah. And the other guy was just like, is that how you really want to play? I mean, if that's how you want to play it, go for it. And then Angron died, came back and killed his army anyway because he's Angron. But it was just like, oh, retribution.
I think for me, it's that kind of thing of any rule that
allows you to use your stuff.
Yeah, anything that shatters the immersion of like, oh, he can't fit because of his wings. It's like, well,
and literally punishes the cool design of a model.
Like if you've, stretched out an arm so it looks cool, it's like, well, he moves his arms. He's got control of his elbows.
It very clearly talks about the base. So they even give an example of a bloodthirster moving between two ruins. Yeah. Despite this model's wings and axe being wide, they don't say and axe, that's me embellishing, but it's, it fits because his axe is out here. Right. Despite the model's wings being wider than the gap between the ruins, the model's base fits, and so the model can move through the gap.
Great.
Nice.
Because it stops you from then going, I'm afraid he'll have to fly.
Yep, the bases should be the footprint.
Yep, 100%.
And that's the only thing that should matter as a token in terms of game.
Exactly.
And then we get to the new Jank.
Okay, so moving units. Add the following. Straight lines. Pivot value. Pivots.
So,
back in second edition, 40k.
Each time you move a model in a straight line, you measure the distance from the same point on its base at the start and end of that line. Cool. For example, you can measure from the back of the model's base and measure the distance to the back of the model's base at the end of that line. If a model does not have a base, you measure using the same point on the model at the start and end of the turn. So far,
okay, that's just logical, yes.
Pivot values. All models have a pivot value of 0 unless stated otherwise. Monsters and vehicle models, excluding those on round bases, explicitly round, hence why they probably had to clarify what a round base is, because someone would be like, well, I think you'll find that when they say round, they're talking about spherical, or those with no edges, going by the geometrical nomenclature. Shut up! And aircraft models. Yeah. They all have a pivot value of 2 unless otherwise stated.
Right.
Each time you pivot a model, rotate it any amount around its central axis perpendicular to the battlefield through the center of its base or through the center of the model if it doesn't have a base. The first time you do this during each of the model's moves, subtract that model's pivot value, see below, from the remaining distance that it can move during the move. If there is not enough distance left to do this, it cannot pivot. Note that the distance it can move is only reduced once for that move, regardless of how many additional times it may pivot during that move.
What?
So.
See, what? It's only reduced once?
Yeah.
But...
So here's
what? If it's only reduced once, but it can...
Here's my Manticore Blimey.
Blimey.
So I've now got... Hang on. What's... Judge, can you just confirm that that's the center of my tank, please?
Well, this already... From the diagram, they've shown a Chaos Rhino. That Chaos Rhino has spikes on the front. So the central axis is off the center of the Rhino. If you then model a Rhino without spikes, where is the central axis?
Well, then you would measure it on a model by model basis, but then at that point, does it become modeling for advantage?
This is what I mean.
Are you going to add extra spikes? Because here's where it does get really bad.
Hang on, Chef. Let me just... Oh, my can of worms is opened.
Yeah, here's the can. Right. I'm going to add... here's my Chaos Rhino. I've added spikes to the front, so I'm out here. So my center's about here. I'm now longer than I am wide, so I can pivot like that. It only cost me 2 inches, but I've gained an inch of movement.
Yeah.
Because I'm like this up against the wall. Yeah. I've moved forward. I've pivoted around the center. I've moved forward.
Oh, no.
Now, I know that I'm only talking about a minor, tiny part of the player base that's going to be like that. But you know that's going to come up with certain people. Yeah. You know that that's going to cause massive headaches for TOs when they're being called left, right and centre going, is that the centre of his model that he's just pivoted around?
Yeah. For me, it's rules like this that seem so at odds with what Temp set out to do.
Temp wanted to be simpler, and now we've got 3 pages of diagrams and an entire 4 new paragraphs explaining how to pivot.
If we're not getting...
But then also you can do this, you can go move, pivot. Right, I can now do that for the rest of the turn if I want to, and that doesn't cost me any movement, lol.
Yeah.
That's stupid.
It's if something, say, having stronger armor at the front of a tank and a weaker rear armor is too complicated. Talking about central axes and pivot charts and tables is too complicated. Like this is the kind of rule that if you've never played Warhammer before, you get to, cool, I've got my Space Marine, how do I move? like 3 pages of diagrams. It's like, I just want to play the game.
I just want to move.
This...
Like, they even give you an example of how to move a model on a circular base, which is, because they don't have a pivot value, you just do this. Obviously! It's just...
Yeah.
It's really... What I find really frustrating about it as well is that it is... Now you have, because it's... Everything moves in straight lines and pivots.
Yeah.
So if you want to move around something, you no longer bend your tape measure, you have to do this.
Yeah.
We're now playing on a grid.
Yeah.
We're playing a ball game. At which point, Games Workshop, please release 66 by 44.
Yeah, battle with
60 by 44
squares.
with 1 inch squares, please.
Yeah.
Because if you want us to play on a grid, we'll play on a grid, but you need to provide that.
Yeah.
It's just, it's such an and this is also, do you remember in 9th edition where they introduced the rule about fighting through walls and then they almost immediately reverted it because everyone broke it? Yeah. This is going to get broken
straight away. Yeah.
No, it's just ridiculous.
I'm looking at it, it's 1, 2, 3, it's 4 pages on this movement.
Yeah.
4 pages on movement.
On how to move.
Which should... It's alarming that it has to be that complicated. Yeah. Like, it shouldn't be that complicated.
They show
it's inaccessible at that point.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And what are they going to do? Put this in the next version of the rule book? And I'm a new player and I want to read this. I'm like, how do I move?
How do I move? Okay, well, I'm going to go.
They also show an example later on with something like a Bloodthirster charging some Space Marines to show it like going through the gap.
Because of the overhang that we've just established. Which is a good
one. It's good to have visual examples.
Great to have visual examples. But even in that example, I'm like, I feel like that Bloodthirster's now got way more...
Remember, he's on an oval base.
Yeah.
So he can move, pivot that way, gain an extra inch on his charge.
It kind of looks like he's suddenly got like a 13, 14 inch charge instead of a 12. And it's like that, I just can see this being quite breakable. And for something that I'm not, clearly must have come up somewhere, but I don't really feel like anyone was asking for this.
I reckon the justification for it is because some people didn't know that they have to measure every single point and actually turn their models. And I'm like, that sounds like a them problem, no offense.
Yeah,
I don't think the rules weren't exactly unclear in that regard. I think that just sounds like someone who is actively being obtuse.
Yeah.
And that person has now caused way more problems than I think Games Workshop have tried to solve.
It's simple. Like, if you're moving up to an object which you have to move around, you measure from the edge of your base up to the edge of that object, and then measure along the object to go around it, and then around.
It's also going to cause some real oddities for vehicles with bases.
Well, that's the thing, because they don't even consistently base all the models in the game.
Like a Raider, Ravager, things like
repulsors,
all
the floaty vehicles.
They're all on circular bases. Not a problem. An Imperial Knight. Now, I've just waxed lyrical about how amazing it is for that Imperial Knight to be able to smash through a wall. The minute that I don't move in a straight line, I lose 2 inches of movement. So it's a good thing I am able to smash through a wall, unless I'm not playing with a balanced Dataslate, at which point I've just been penalised.
Yeah. I mean, there is one good thing about the pivot.
Okay.
Is that you can now move your tank so the cannon faces the right way if you're shooting that way for free without having to worry about it too much.
Only if you pivot once.
Only if you pivot once. But at least like you can at the end of your move, you've just moved straight. Turn the cannon.
I mean, I know what's going to happen in every single game. Beard is going to be like, I pivot so that I can do this as I move.
Know that. Woo!
Right, moving on from that, there's a few other changes. Firing deck, you cannot pick a unit inside that has already shot, so you can't be out, shoot, jump in, shoot again with certain abilities because people were like that. Shooting phase, you have to have an eligible target to do stuff like shoot and scoot.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you can't be like gargoyles, I'm going to shoot, I've got no one to shoot, but I'll move. It's like you have to actually see something.
Okay.
But they are very clear that it doesn't change the unit's eligibility to shoot, which is you are still eligible to shoot because otherwise you'd be like, you can't see anything, you can't do actions.
Right.
Yeah.
That's good. Mortal wounds. Now there's been some slight changes here.
This is interesting.
Hazardous is now always 3 mortal wounds, no matter what you are.
Okay.
Which means you can take feel no pains against it.
Yep.
Not sure how I feel about that. Plasma guns just exploded in your face, but sure.
I don't think there's any infantry that have 4 wounds that have plasma guns.
Not 4 wounds, no, but you can have feel no pain on a unit of Hellblasters.
Oh dear.
Or a unit of what else has hazardous that has feel no pains? There's stuff in the Genestealer cult army. They can have. Now, admittedly, you're needing to roll it against 3 mortal wounds, but point being is it's still just like great. We get to slow the game down again. Yay!
I'll just bring up tactical marines.
In addition, with Hazardous, it always goes on to anything wounded, anything else, then characters in that order.
Yeah.
If they've got Hazardous.
Sure.
Just neatens it up a little bit.
Okay.
In addition, and this is the key thing, I don't want anyone to freak out. I want you to calm down. I want you to just breathe. Breathe with me. Mortal wounds caused by devastating wounds. Now, hold on. I can hear you typing away. That shit game's ruined again. Those mortal wounds and the hazardous mortal wounds never spill over.
Okay.
So the reason for this is so that it enables you to take Feel No Pains against hazardous checks and devastating wounds, i.e. 4 Feel No Pains against mortal wounds for Caldor Drago.
Yes.
He can now use those against devastating wounds.
Basically, can now use
they
them
watched
against
your game and went, oh no man, now we got fixed because Lawrence is an idiot.
Yeah. Yeah. But also, it was kind of dumb, right?
It's a bit weird that like this massive, you can defend against a mortal wound from a grenade, but not from an explosion.
Right.
I get it. I like the change. It's a good change. It gives life back to those units with those rules. My downside with it is that it's becoming very close to 9th edition.
Yes.
Where this is an invulnerable save, but this weapon ignores invulnerable saves, but this weapon is a super invulnerable save and does ignore invulnerable. Yeah. And now it's like, this is a Feel No Pain, and you can take that against everything. This is a Feel No Pain that only works against mortal wounds, which also works against devastating wounds, but not too many wounds.
And these ones don't spill over.
And these ones don't spill over, but these ones do spill over, and it's just a bit like...
So
it's a good change, but it's just...
So devastating wounds now do mortal wounds.
They do mortal wounds that do not spill over.
That do not spill over.
Yeah. Just to, I know, like in practice, it makes sense.
Yeah.
In writing, it's really
it's basically like
it's so complicated.
If you've got like a devastating weapon that does like 12 damage.
Yeah. If you've got a railgun, that railgun's going to do, and you rolled the 6, that railgun's going to do 6 plus d6 mortal wounds to one model in the unit.
Sure.
So you can't nuke a unit.
You can't nuke a unit.
Yeah.
But what it could mean is that you go, oh, you rolled a 1, 7. It's like, I got 4 Feel No Pain because of because of Caldor Drago. He tanks it like a bad man.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
He deflects it with a shield.
Yeah.
And Custodes massively benefit
With Talons of the Emperor and with Stratagems.
Okay, what else?
What else?
Fire?
Indirect Fire is capped at 1s, 2s, and 3s. They always miss.
Oh!
Unmodified 1s, 2s, and 3s always miss.
Okay.
So you might be like, I'm heavy and I've got +1 to hit and +1 ballistic skill. Don't care.
Okay.
It's worth noting, guard
Massive
players.
change,
It's worth noting, guard players. You have had points drops on all your indirect stuff because not only have you now basically Scout Sentinels do less for them.
Yeah.
They also can't benefit from the Born Soldiers unless they're visible. So you have it's been tempered, and that's a good change because stuff hitting on freeze from behind a wall was dumb.
It was very silly.
Hazardous, I've gone through extra attacks. They've clarified that you can attack with every extra attack weapon you have, which I don't think is many, but worth noting. Okay. Devastating wounds I've mentioned. Profiles, they basically clarified nothing can be reduced to 0.
Sure. Okay. So minimum 1.
Minimum of
Which
1
is nice.
on everything.
Yep.
Obviously ignoring AP, and the only time for is damage if it's set to 0.
Okay.
Deep Strike, this is something that they've clarified in like the tournament packs, which is the whole, if a unit with Deep Strike arrives from Strategic Reserve, you can choose to arrive as Deep Strike. I think that was basically buried deep in the designer's commentary. Mm-hmm. It's now enshrined in the core rules. Okay. So hopefully it will be easier to access. Leaders, it doesn't look like much has changed, but they basically clarified the steps of when you become a leader. Okay. When your bodyguard's dead, you no longer have this keyword. Right. They've also said that, if you kill all of a bodyguard but not the character, you don't kill a character unit because they've lost the character keyword when they... But when they die, you split them off, remove all relevant keywords, and then kill them.
Yeah, makes sense.
So you can't get stuff from like, I killed a monster unit. With my on your Hive Tyrant with bodyguards. I killed all the bodyguard, but not him. No,
doesn't count.
They're not monsters.
Yeah. The character still loses their ability though when the unit goes.
Yes. Yeah. Stratagem changes.
Hey, come on, re-roll.
Right. This pleases me to no end. Again, they've been watching me a lot. Any phase just after you've made an advance roll, charge roll, desperate escape test, hazardous test, hit, wound, damage, save, you can choose to re-roll it. Sounds the same.
Okay, but?
If you are using fast dice rolling, you can use this after rolling all your dice at once. Yay! I don't need to be like, just in case I want to use this, one at a time.
So you can
I
just
love
pick
that
one of the dice
it's enshrined in the rules. It gives you a lot more control because that was the reason why you had to do it that way, is because you had future knowledge.
Yeah.
It's now in the rules, so just go at it.
Crazy,
it's fine. You know what? You've got 12 saves to make, and if you fail 2, you might reroll 1, and you fail 2, go for your life. But you don't now need to waste your opponent's time.
Right.
Great.
Yep.
Insane Bravery has moved from the Balance Dataslate into the core rules. It is still once per game, automatically passes Battle Shock before you take a Battle Shock test. Grenades, you cannot have advanced, fallen back, or shot this turn.
Okay.
Good. It's also specifically from a grenades model. So if you've got a character with grenades in a unit without grenades, you don't get to measure it from someone else.
Yeah, it has to be the
He
unit
doesn't
that
give
has
them
the
his
grenade.
grenades.
Yeah,
Tank Shock.
Okay. And your favourites?
Now, we're a little bit in two minds on this one in the studio. Just after a vehicle unit from your army ends a charge move, you pick that vehicle unit, you select one enemy unit within range, engagement range of it, select one vehicle model in your unit in engagement range and roll a number of d6 equal to its toughness characteristic.
To its toughness characteristic?
Yeah.
Oh.
And for each 5 ups, they take 6 mortal. They take 1 mortal wound up to 6. So there's no more strength, there's no more bonus for strength versus toughness.
So Redemptors and, any...
They're not going in and doing 6 mortal wounds.
Knights.
I will miss not being able to run in and do the rock bottom with a Hellbrute. I will miss my Imperial Knights running in and not just doing that.
Yeah.
But it's much more reasonable.
Yes, it is, yeah. It is so upset.
I understand that, and look, it makes rhinos better at doing it. It makes stuff that
It makes tanks better at
it makes vehicles much
rather
better
than
at doing
walkers.
it. But I will miss rolling 26 dice for a
so
Thunderstrike
will I.
gauntlet.
No, I understand.
So will I, but you know what? If it'll make you feel better, you could roll 26 dice as you smash through a wall.
Yeah, I mean, you win some, you lose some. I've got damage 2 power weapons on my Deathwatch Knights. I'm a happy boy.
Rapid Ingress is the same as the Balance Dataslate, so I think it's just you can arrive from Deep Strike even though it's not your turn. Fire Overwatch is still the same, non-Titanic, has to be visible. Heroic Intervention is 1 CP.
Okay.
That's nice.
Okay.
Maybe it might see some use. Who knows? Ruins, please. I'll allow you to take the ruins.
I've forgotten about this. Infantry now includes Imperium, Primarch, and Belisarius. Cruel. So
You mean Bobby G can use a door?
Bobby G and the Lion can go through ruins because yes, they could fit through a window or open a door.
Right.
They also, the Lion would go, oh, lad, sorry, there's a wall here. I best go
We'll go
around
around.
rather than
Yeah,
cut through it.
I understand.
I imagine
why
Belisarius Call actually doesn't walk through it. He just kind of looks at it and it just goes, I'm sorry, master.
recoiling.
Or he's just some like really hot, he's actually really tiny under there and he goes full like Sentinel from the Matrix.
Yeah.
He just goes,
Creepy.
I understand why it wasn't before because they were monsters.
Yeah.
I
I mean,
understand.
they're still monsters, but they
But
just,
this is a nice change. It's being like,
Yeah.
again, this is one of those things we're saying. It's like they're sort of like, come on now rules. They're sort of like, they should probably be able to open a door.
Yeah.
They're big, but they're not that big.
Ruins visibility section, I believe this is just changed from the designer's commentary and or the Balance Dataslate. Aircraft models can't look through it. Models that are within this terrain feature can be seen normally. Terra models that are within can also see out of it. So you still, I first read it and was just like, oh no, they've reverted it. It's like you still have to be like wholly within unless you're Titanic and then you can be toe in, but you can be seen either way. So the way that everyone's been playing it, it's just if you're brand new to the game, it's now going to be put into the core rules, hopefully. And then there's something about warlords, and if the warlord or rules make a unit battle line, you do count them as battle line in the making of your army step, not halfway through the game. Okay. I literally don't think that makes a difference to anything because battle line means nothing, other than maybe something in the new Pariah Nexus where you'll be able to choose one in deployment. And then there is like a million pages of core rule FAQs and the rules commentary, which we're not going to go over because there's so much.
There's a lot.
We've already been here for a while.
Yeah, a lot of red.
Look, they are huge changes.
Huge changes.
So the core rules have seen significantly big changes.
And other than the weird pivot thing, I think they're all generally for the best. A little bit clunky on the Devi wounds.
Yeah, sure.
I'm sad about Tank Shock, but it makes more narrative sense.
Yeah, look, I'm giving it a 4 J's out of 5. I'm not mucking about. I think this is all great.
I agree. And I think the faction changes are really quite exciting.
Really nice.
Which will breathe life back into the armies of many of you out there. But what do you guys think? That's what I want to know. Leave your comment below. We can discuss it further there. Until next time, I've been Lawrence. You've been Chef.
Actually, Captain Happy for once.
Captain Happy. You've been Captain Happy. You've been the Bards. We've been Tabletop Tactics. We'll see you on another State of Play, perhaps sooner rather than later. These updates are coming fast. Bye-bye!